Like and follow if you love horror. Well, grand theft is a felony. Come on, the shop has been under surveillance for a while. This is the break we need to bust up the operation as it is. You can ride along if you want. You think I'd let you go without me? Joan threw the map and the books in a pilfered laptop bag. Joan didn't like the idea of riding back seat on this. She was vulnerable that way, but she knew she needed to ease Carol into everything. Right now, just the story about the cult was a bit much. Space cockroaches would have to come later. In that moment, she thought of Dustin. She watched from the cars the SWAT team burst in and shook the place down. Then they lined up every suspect and pulled Joan out to assist with the questioning. Come on, Damien, we caught you red-handed this time. It's alright though, every perp eventually gets sloppy. But maybe this one comes with a side of luck. We came prepared with a deal. How's that for things looking your way? Carol leaned back on the bumper of a Cadillac SUV. You stripped an Airstream, or maybe some Airstream parts. Either way, one thing that would have stood apart from the rest was a periscope, Joan added. It's pretty sweet, huh? 1943 diesel, part of the Pacific Theater. Decommissioned and stripped in 1996. Spent time at Electric Boat, then the Nautilus Museum. Nice taste indeed, but yeah, fuck you, because I bought that shit fair and square. Title, certification, everything. Bitch. Damien wasn't going to crack easily as it was, but it sounded like this arrogance was a little deeper. You say you purchased the periscope with all of its documentations. Alright, get him to his feet. She gestured for her personnel who immediately stood Damien up. Show me. Damien led Carol and Joan into his office. He gestured to some keys on the desk and then a filing cabinet which produced a folder. Carol thumbed through it quickly. She flopped the folder down on the desk next to Damien. It was filled with old newspapers. What the fuck is this shit? Where the fuck's my title? You motherfuckers tricked me. That's fucking entrapment. Damien thrashed, but was instantly restrained by the two officers in waiting. This is bullshit. Get him out of here. Carol had a distant look as though she was in thought. What do you think, Joan? What do you think? Joan asked simply. Damien doesn't make those kinds of mistakes. I was expecting a forgery, even a bad one. His attitude, his arrogance, he was convinced he had us trumped again. Carol bit on a nail and continued to get lost in thought. And there's more. Doesn't it seem weird that someone managed to convince a seasoned con with his own shop that a newspapers were official documents? Joan fanned the newspapers out on the desktop for Carol to see. Okay, there's definitely more to this. She looked over to Joan. There's more to this than you're letting on. Joan stiffened up. Carol, trust me when I... Trust you? Carol snapped. I trust you, but why do I get the feeling that you don't trust me? Damn it, Carol, I wasn't ready for this when I was introduced. You must know I'm trying to ease you in. This is way bigger than you can imagine. This is bigger than Waco. What do you want me to tell you? Joan was uncomfortably aware that they were fighting like an old married couple. You can start by telling me how you shot a man more than once and didn't kill him. Joan, you want to explain that one? Carol asked flatly. We got incoming, an officer from the pit crew called. No, 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 Joan said, drawing her weapon. Get those men out of cuffs or they'll be slaughtered. Joan! Carol was likely going to say something about Joan not taking charge, but she didn't get the chance. 3 bread trucks were speeding in reverse straight towards the shop's open auto bay. Joan leaned over to Carol. You're about to get all those answers way faster than I got them. Now's a good time for those Desert Eagles. Carol wasn't going to argue. She holstered her sidearm and accepted the venerable hand cannon that Joan handed her. She then took a can of bear mace and 2 flares. 2 officers aimed for the tires for the bread truck and opened fire. It had negligible effect. The 3 bread trucks slammed into the building. Debris went tearing through the bay, and everyone dove for cover. In the mayhem, Joan saw Damien and his crew slip into the work pit below the auto bay. The doors to the bread truck swung open. Every nerve in the bay was on end. There was only the briefest of moments of silence. You're going to pay quite dearly for your insolence, for denying the master's gift, for the mild inconvenience you caused her. Samuel's voice came from the blackness inside the truck. No one could see in them, but movement could clearly be heard. Samuel stepped out, every gun in the bay cocked. Yo, asshole! Hands behind your head and knees on the pavement, Carol barked. Joan, you're going to watch your friends die, and then you will be fed to the master like an hors d'oeuvre. Samuel's remark could almost be mistaken as giddy, if it wasn't for his passionless tone. Still, there was some sense of glee hidden in there somewhere. Knees! Pavement! Now! Carol commanded in rapid succession. We will shoot! Then the inhuman howl of the hollow came from the trucks behind Samuel. The sound was followed by multiple others from multiple angles, not just from the trucks, but every entrance. Then the leathery homunculus just started pouring in. The gunfire did not begin immediately. One could imagine that everyone in the bay was in shock. It could have been said that the only reason anyone pulled a trigger was out of survival reflex. Then the bay lit up like a roadside fireworks stand that had been set on fire. Within moments, the hollow were jumping down from the fucking walls, snatching up officers and rendering them into fleshy ribbons. Joan grabbed Carol and quickly moved her towards the work pit. That's where Damien and his people had snuck off to, and if Joan could choose a place to hide an escape hatch anywhere, it would be there. Carol took a position at her back, and the two leaned into each other to take aim. The 357s did nothing more than provide knockback. Within seconds of impact, the hollow were back on their feet. Go for the knees! Carol belted out as loud as she could, but her ears rang. She could barely hear herself. We can't kill them, we can slow them these fucking things down, she said before taking the legs out from under one. Make your way to the crew pit. We're getting the fuck out of here, Carol commanded to her troops as she and Joan moved closer to the pit. There was no one left to command. It was just carnage. It took only moments. Samuel pointed and screamed something as Joan and Carol slid into the work pit. They couldn't hear a damn thing. Cement walls just echoed the sounds of gunfire and worsened the ringing in their ears. Damien's escape exit was easy enough to follow. On their way out, Joan kicked over a tin of cleaner and a pan of gasoline and a drum of oil, then sparked a flare and threw the can of bear mace in for good measure. Her response to everything had become, burn it to ashes. The escape tunnel made for an easily defensible bottleneck, especially now that the entrance was in flames. The hollow were practically tangled up, tripping over each other. A few rounds to the knees and they just tumbled end over end, flailing into one another. Joan and Carol popped up a service hatch behind a building across the street from the chop shop. They won't pursue us in the daylight. They can't risk exposure, Joan said, panting and stumbling a bit. But Carol couldn't hear her and backpedaled, aim poised at the access hatch. Joan placed a hand on Carol's shoulder. Don't worry, we're okay as long as we're in public in broad daylight. Let's get the fuck out of here. Joan patted her pilfered laptop bag. She managed to retain it the whole time. What the fuck were those things, Joan? Carol was a little more than shaken, but more importantly, unhappy about some major details that Joan had left out about her situation. Already told you. Best we could figure they were human, but something literally sucked out all the insides. It then gets replaced by something else, something not human, Joan explained, thumbing round after round into her clip. They don't seem to have vitals, they don't seem to feel pain, but you discovered that they still need bones and generally need their joints intact to get around. Kind of like the undead, huh? Carol's jaw was agape. How are you taking this so easily? Trust me, it took a while, as well as you were in... Trust me, I took it about as well as you are until my mind was finally able to accept it. You have the benefit of not being able to write off what you just witnessed. I was given 3 chances before I eventually opened my eyes. What the actual fuck is going on here, Joan? Carol slipped her new gun into her belt and then gave some more rounds and holstered. Fuck! What's going on is us getting back to the station before they get to that Lincoln. This felt very much like a fucking setup to me. They got us away from the